Sanctuary is under siege, not by the swing of a sword or the blast of a spell, but by a corruption more dangerous and insidious than any could imagine: the Malignant. In this video, we'll explore theories about the origins of the Malignant, Cormond's involvement in the resurgence of the Malignant, and even question the involvement of Mephisto, the Lord of Hatred himself, at the end of the video. Let's get started. As usual, you can jump around the video using the timestamps in the description. Also, spoiler warning for the entire questline of Season of the Malignant. The Malignant are frightful beings who were once human but fell prey to the corruption of hatred. This contamination is so insidious and powerful that it cannot be eradicated using conventional methods. According to the scriptures of Sanctuary, every human is a unique fusion of angelic and demonic halves. The divine legacy of Inarius, the angel, and Lilith, the mother of Sanctuary. These halves coexist within every human, dormant and in balance. However, Lilith has the power to awaken and corrupt the dormant demonic half. When this occurs, the individual is driven to the brink of madness by an unrelenting tide of hatred. This hatred can stop there and leave the host violent, but under certain circumstances can trigger a horrific transformation, resulting in the individual becoming a malignant. The demonic half, now awake and in control, voraciously consumes its hosts from the inside out, causing total decay. Attempting to destroy a malignant through ordinary methods is futile. They possess an unsettling resilience to death, which has presented a significant challenge. The solution was found in an intricate device known as a cage of binding. This specialized tool functions by imprisoning the corrupted heart of the malignant, effectively halting the spread of their corruption. However, it's crucial to understand that not every corrupted creature we face in the Season of the Malignant is indeed malignant. As per the grim nature of this affliction, only human hosts can fully transform into malignants. Nonetheless, the malignant disease can seep into other living beings, like wolves and other animals. Although these creatures do not morph into malignants, they become carriers of the taint, spreading it further while being driven to madness by uncontrolled hatred. Thus, the insidious nature of the malignant continues to permeate through the world, infecting and transforming the unsuspecting. But where did this corruption start? And who created these cages of binding? To figure out the origins of the Malignant, we need to go back in time around the year 1236. Here, we find the Zakarum in Hawazar coming face to face with the horrifying reality of the Malignant. This marked the first historical mention of these corrupted beings, laying down the foundation for our own understanding of them today. In their struggle against this unprecedented enemy, the Zakarum Inquisitors took upon themselves a daunting task. They captured infected humans, their own brethren, subjecting them to a series of experiments that lasted grueling months in a hidden outpost. The goal was audacious yet desperate: to cleave apart the demonic half from its angelic counterpart within the host, hoping that by isolating the corrupted heart, they could purge the corruption out. However, the interconnected nature of the human soul proved to be an unsurmountable hurdle. The angelic and demonic halves are intrinsic to the fabric of human identity. Despite their repeated success in capturing the corrupted hearts, the process always led to the demise of the host. It was a disheartening realization that humanity's unique dual nature, the blend of light and dark, cannot exist independently of each other. After 4 arduous months of experimentation, with a device they called the Cages of Binding, the Inquisitors reached a somber conclusion. While the disease of the malignant can be halted, a cure remains elusive. The cages acted as a control measure rather than a cure, killing the host in the process. These cage designs were meticulously recorded and stored within a hall of records inside the Orbe Monastery, the same monastery that would later be consumed by flames during the events of Diablo 4, ignited by Elias. You can watch my video about Elias if you want to find out more about that event. That being said, the designs for these cages survived as they were buried deep in the Orbe Monastery. The story now brings us to Cormond, a man whose life was irrevocably marked by the Malignant. A few years prior to the events of Diablo 4, Cormond, inspired by the returning angel Inarius, left his home in the west. He embarked on a journey to the Fractured Peaks with dreams of serving in the Cathedral of Light. Upon his arrival, he was taken under the wing of Priest Varsham, the spiritual leader of a small village named Velkova. Varsham's wisdom and kindness deeply influenced Cormond, who respected him as a mentor and father figure. During his time in Velkova, Cormond worked diligently to serve his people and grow in his faith. The tranquility of their lives was shattered when Lilith, the mother of hatred, descended upon their village during the events of Diablo 4. She unleashed her powers upon the villagers, causing them to descend into madness and violence. In the chaos, Cormond pleaded with Priest Varsham to flee, but the dedicated priest refused to abandon his flock. Faced with the decimation of his home, Cormond fled and set out on a quest to halt the spread of this hate. His search led him to the Orbe Monastery, where he discovered the blueprints for the Cages of Binding. Empowered by the hope of healing his people, he returned to Velkova. Upon his return, he found a scene of devastation. The villagers were gone, their lives claimed by the impurity. Only Priest Varsham remained, now fully engulfed in the madness inflicted by Lilith. Braving the heartbreaking sight, Cormond attempted to use a cage on his mentor, hoping to stave off the defilement. His efforts catastrophically backfired. Instead of healing Varsham, the corruption erupted out of him, transforming him into a malignant. In this form, he became a vessel of amplified contagion, spreading the malignant plague to all he touched. This marked the tragic inception of a new malignant epidemic, a consequence of Cormond's well-intentioned but ill-fated action. Overwhelmed by guilt and the magnitude of the crisis, Cormond was left in despair. Unable to stem the rising tide of sickness alone, he wrote a desperate plea for help to a legendary figure in Sanctuary, the Wanderer. That's you, by the way. A being known to have faced great perils and emerged victorious. We're uncertain if the letter written by Cormond reached its intended recipient. Nevertheless, the Wanderer, while in Kiovashad, learned about a rising tide of possessions outside the city from a distressed man named Vitram. When the Wanderer arrived, he found Cormond on the brink of defeat at the hands of the Malignant. The Wanderer narrowly managed to save Cormond's life. The two quickly joined forces and set out on a quest to end the corruption of the Malignant. Their mission, to find a potent cage of binding that could subdue Priest Varsham, the source of all of this. Their search led them to an old Zakarum outpost, where they discovered a potent cage, different and more powerful than the ones Cormond had built. However, they also faced a grim truth. The cages ultimately also killed the host. They couldn't cure the affliction. Regardless, they grabbed the device and returned to Velkova, ready to face the transformed Varsham. Upon their return, they engaged in a fierce battle with Varsham, now known as Varsham the Consumed, as he was being consumed by the sickness. With considerable effort, they overcame the powerful Malignant and enclosed his heart in the cage, defeating him and halting the spread for good. The victory, however, was bittersweet. Cormond, deeply affected by the realization that he could only end this by killing the Malignant, committed himself to a new path. He pledged to remain devoted to his work, overseeing the gradual eradication of the lingering decay. Cormond also vowed to aid the Wanderer further and continue manufacturing cages, in hope of giving peace to those lost to the Malignant and redeem himself for the chaos he inadvertently unleashed. So why did the Zakarum Inquisitors need these cages back in 1236? Well, I want to talk about something I've been looking into. You see, I have a theory linking Mephisto, Lilith's father, to the source of the Malignant back in those days. Before I go any further, I would highly advise you to go watch my video about Mephisto to understand exactly who I'm talking about, and then come back to this one to finish the story. Historically, in the 13th century, Mephisto was involved in a slow, insidious corruption of the High Council of the Zakarum faith. His aim was to take control of the faith and use it as a conduit to spread his corruptive influence. By the year 1264, coinciding with the events of Diablo 2, Mephisto had achieved his objective, seizing control of the Zakharum High Council. This leads us to believe that Mephisto could have been instrumental in inciting the malignant epidemic of 1236. He is the Lord of Hatred after all. The faithful who remained loyal to Akarat had to grapple with this new threat. The situation demanded innovative solutions, leading to the construction of the Cages of Binding by the Zakharum Inquisitors. This was a pivotal moment in the history of the Malignant, as the Cages played a crucial role in containing the spread of the corruption, preventing a potentially catastrophic outcome. So, what do you think? Am I grasping at straws here, or does this make sense to you too? At the end of it, we're left with one question. Was Cormond wrong in trying to save his mentor, Father Varshan? Did his actions, however noble, end up costing the world of Sanctuary more than it could afford by releasing the malignant corruption? The truth is, in the face of such a malevolent force, decisions were made under duress, guided by the urgency to save those dear and the world at large, a common theme in the Diablo universe. Yet, even as we question his actions, we must remember the essence of humanity Cormond represents, the desire to help, to cure, to save. Yes, his actions may have unleashed a terrifying power, but they also illuminated the path to fight back, to resist, always. Stand strong, brave souls, for the fight is not yet over. The journey continues, and so must we. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave me a like to help with the algorithm, or why don't you go check out one of my other videos? That's also helpful. Thank you.